We're live in Dalton at the center of the latest school shooting, now amplifying the debate of how do we keep our kids safe in our schools.
A look at the minute-by-minute moments in Dalton that thrust the small town into the national spotlight.
3 more arrests as the number of school threats in our area skyrockets. What you and your kids need to know.
A different gun debate at the state capitol tonight. Lawmakers are set to remove a key tax break for Delta, thanks to the NRA.
Tonight, the national debate about gun safety and keeping our children safe inside our schools is here in Dalton, Georgia. That's because today, a teacher walked into Dalton High School behind me with a gun, barricaded himself in that classroom, and fired that weapon. Well, tonight we're going to find out a lot more about that teacher and some new details that we've uncovered. But before we get there, we're also going to talk about the big picture on what this means tonight. But first, we've got to clear up exactly what happened today at Dalton High School. It's a little bit of a convoluted story, but Faith Abube joins me now, and she's going to walk us through what happened today and how it ends up that a teacher walks into that school, ends up firing a gun.
You know, Vinny, it's mind-boggling. 11 o'clock on a Wednesday night, and you're in the parking lot of a school. You wouldn't expect cars here at all. But when you look over my shoulder in the distance where teachers, staff members park, you see cars in the distance there. In the middle of the chaos this morning, when staff and teachers and students were trying to get to safety, they were forced to leave their personal belongings here on campus. Meanwhile, investigators are working as hard as they can to try to piece together what happened. Heart racing, feet pounding, students desperately trying to get to safety inside Dalton High School. And outside, police quickly swarming the building.
They knew where the threat was located, so they were able to move directly to that area.
And worried parents wanting to know what happened.
I am a nervous wreck.
Police say this teacher, Randall Davidson, fired a single shot inside his classroom around 11:30 a.m., busting this window with students just steps away on the other side of the door.
We ran to the other side of the classroom. People were crying.
Dalton police say this all happened during third period. Students were trying to get inside Randall Davidson's classroom, but the social studies teacher blocked the door. Shortly after, the principal himself tried to get in.
And said, "Don't come in here, I have a gun." And so at that point, I put our school into a threat lockdown immediately. And it was shortly after that I heard a gunshot.
No one was injured, but in the chaos of trying to find safety, a student injured an ankle. Police say the 53-year-old teacher had snuck the gun onto campus in his computer bag. He has refused to tell investigators what his intentions were. But Bruce Frazier with Dalton Police says investigators have an idea.
This is just something that he's dealing with, and I don't know exactly what it was, but this is just something about him and not anything larger.
And Davidson is charged with several felonies tonight, including terroristic threat and act. Police don't actually believe that he intended to hurt any students or staff members here, but they do say what he's accused of doing did in fact terrorize an entire community here.
Oh, absolutely. And thank goodness no one got hurt today and everyone was able to get out safely. School's closed tomorrow, right?
That's correct.
You still have all these cars and everything at the school. What's going to happen?
And you have belongings inside the school as well. School officials are telling us even though school is not in session tomorrow, teachers, staff members, students are all allowed to come back here and retrieve their personal belongings. Classes will resume on Friday.
All right. Thanks so much, Faith. Now, the big part of the story is the teacher, right? Who is he? Why did this happen? Well, today we uncovered some prior incidents and really disturbing behavior by this teacher. 11 Live investigator Andy Parati has that part of the story tonight.
We obtained 2 incident reports from the Dalton Police Department documenting Mr. Davidson's mental illness, including one where he attempted to take responsibility for the death of a woman authorities say didn't exist.
According to a 2016 police report, he claims he had an internet affair with a young pregnant woman. When he broke off the relationship, he says he believed friends of his killed the woman, which he felt responsible for. In the report, he told police he was on medication for depression and he just got out of the hospital that day. Police wrote Davidson may be delusional, explaining that they could not find any evidence of his claims. A second incident happened in January 2017. This time, Dalton police responded to the school after staff reported Davidson missing from class. According to the report, the officer wrote, due to Mr. Davidson having a history of medical problems, the officer contacted Hamilton Medical Center. When police found him, 2 school staffers were holding him up on a street curb. Davidson was awake but was not able to speak.
Despite the reports of strange behavior, students and their principal said Davidson's actions caught them by surprise.
And what did you think about him?
He was a funny guy, but I would never think like he would do this.
Why?
Because last year he seemed like a really good teacher.
I mean, he's a good teacher. And I would be surprised with any of our teachers if that occurred. It's not just him. Our teachers care about our kids, they love our kids, they take care of our kids. And it's certainly shocking, probably shocking any school principal if one of their staff members, pulled a gun out in the classroom and fired it.
We spoke to another student who was in Mr. Davidson's classroom earlier this morning in world history before the shooting. He said Mr. Davidson's demeanor was normal and he was cracking jokes like he always did. Andy Parati, 11 Alive News.
And the other part of the story, I came up here earlier today, and there was a big meeting at the Board of Education today. They're actually interviewing new prospects for superintendent. Today was the day of the interviews. Well, the public was also allowed at this meeting. There were some parents that were really concerned, wanted more safety for their children. While I was there, I spoke to the chairman of the Board of Education. The mayor was there because I'm at Town Hall. I spoke with the mayor and also the town administrator, who's the former police chief of Dalton, about what happened today and what needs to happen in the future.
This was like I hate to be cliche, it was a practice run. And hopefully it'll be a good tool for us to do better to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Is this something that they prepared for specifically today?
Our department and the school system have made plans ahead of time as far as what would happen, how school officials and police would communicate, what they would do with students in terms of getting them locked down in the classrooms, and then, if necessary, what to do to get the students off campus, to get them to a safe place and reunited with parents. And so that prior planning, I think, really showed up today.
At our next board meeting, we're expecting to have, it's part of our agenda, and so we're going to have some parents coming in, and they're going to want to know, just like the parent did tonight, what are we doing to keep kids safe?
Things have to change. We've seen changes in place when something happened on a plane. We can't take a bottle with us because it's a danger. But yet, I feel like with schools, not enough is being done.
We're doing all we can, and we want to look at doing more, whether it's barricades on doors or anything within reason.
I don't know, maybe metal detectors, more security at the schools. We have a lot of security.
Let me ask you this question. Do you want the schools to be gun-free, or do you want people with guns there to protect the students?
I think maybe like in the courthouse. In the courthouse, there's guards. I don't think teachers should be armed. I think teachers are just like anyone.
And it's such a difficult question, Natisha. You talk about, do people want guns in these classrooms? Do they want to be gun-free? What do we do to keep our kids safe? Big part of the conversation on social media today.
That's right, Vinny. And with so many of these stories that we've seen in the days, the Dalton lockdown unfolded over social media as students rushed to warn their families and their friends about what was happening. And within minutes, the story breaking, we saw Dalton students posting videos on Snapchat and on Twitter, some of them as they scrambled to evacuate the school or even let loved ones know that they were okay. People across the country are talking and posting about today's incident, including survivors of the Parkland, Florida school shooting. Among those most vocal, Emma Gonzalez, making her anger at the lack of action of gun reform abundantly clear. And today's shooting is just 2 weeks to the day after a former student opened fire at Parkland's Stoneman Douglas High School, killing 17 people there. This morning, people lined the street sharing hugs and supportive messages as students made their way back to school for the first day of classes since the devastating loss. And today, also in Florida, lawmakers voted to move forward on a proposed bill that would arm teachers there. Now, it's a topic that we've been discussing a lot here in Georgia since the Parkland High School shooting. And right now, our state it's legal for teachers to be armed with guns, and as long as they have approval from the school board. And so far, no districts have endorsed this, and most teachers agree with that.
99.9% of them are saying no with an H in front of it, and that doesn't mean heavens no either. They are not in favor of being armed in the schools.
Berdelia Turner is the president of the American Federation of Teachers in Georgia, and she says they will fight any school district who tries to put guns in teachers' hands. Now, some gun supporters, though, disagree, despite the shooting at Dalton today.
I'm sure some people will say, well, that's a good reason not to allow teachers to carry guns, because look what can happen. But this didn't happen as a result of a teacher being allowed to carry a gun. It was a crime for him to do it at the school.
John Monroe went on to say arming teachers will eliminate a threat quicker, and the shooting in Dalton should not be a deterrent for arming teachers. Now we have this graphic cell phone video coming out of Hartsfield-Jackson Airport tonight. This begins our look at our speed feed, and a warning. This video is pretty intense. Airport officials say an intoxicated passenger jumped from the second floor of Concourse D. This happened outside Terrapin Brewery. The man was apparently threatening other passengers and jumped when police confronted him. He was injured but conscious and taken to the hospital. No charges filed yet. 2 more suspects behind bars tonight in connection with the Barcelona wine bar murder. 20-year-old Terry Jones was arrested today at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. Hours later, 19-year-old Ira Troy Williams was taken into custody in Stone Mountain. Both men have been charged with felony murder. Police believe they have now arrested all 4 suspects wanted in that case. DeKalb police on the hunt tonight for a man in this sketch. He's the suspect of the rape of a 13-year-old girl. It allegedly happened along the railroad tracks on South Stone Mountain Road and Lithonia Road, and you were asked to call police with any information. A grand jury has indicted 2 now former Gwinnett County police officers. The 10-count indictment includes felony aggravated assault. This all stems from a traffic stop last year where video shows the driver handcuffed on the ground and what appears to be one of the officers kicking him in the head. The former officers have been out of jail on bond, and they will plead not guilty to all charges. Christy?
Now, since that shooting in Parkland in Florida, it appears schools across the country have seen a rise in threats. We've had 4 here in the metro area just in the last week. So tonight, local officers have a very strong message to anyone who plans to give a threat. A threat of violence sent Paulding County into go mode after police say this 17-year-old girl texted a friend that someone was at North Paulding High with a gun. Police say Ava Castile claimed the suspect was trying to enter classrooms while armed, but after talking with her, learned it was all a hoax. This after another scare in Fulton County at Johns Creek High, when a student reported these Snapchat messages, where a student posed with several guns. Even though there was no direct threat to anyone, it was menacing enough for the school to suspend him, pending a disciplinary hearing. But the story doesn't end there. Somehow this student got the name of the person who reported him, and according to a police report, is now trying to go after them, threatening to urinate on the door of their house when no one else is around. If that wasn't enough, a third threat made by a student about violence at South Cobb High in Austell. A joint investigation led to a 15-year-old girl who will be charged.
This is a crime. We are not going to let this slide.
Police say even though most of these threats are non-specific and fake, it's got to stop.
Don't do it. It's not worth it. Just because you think this might be funny, or, oh my God, I don't want to take this test, or I want to get my buddy out of whatever jam he's in school, it's not worth it. You're talking about a potential felony charge.
And think about this, those 3 arrests are just what we've learned today. There was another threat written on a bathroom wall at Hiram High School on Monday. Police say a 16-year-old girl was arrested for that and charged with 2 felonies.
Tonight, the law has not changed on how old you have to be to purchase a gun, but if you go to Dick's Sporting Goods or Walmart, there's a huge difference.
I'm meteorologist Chris Holcomb from the 11 Alive Storm Trackers, tracking some light rain in Atlanta, heavier rain up in North Georgia, and more is on the way. I'm going to break down which areas have the potential for flash flooding and the timing of possible strong thunderstorms.
And the gun debate also continues inside our state capitol. Lawmakers are set to remove a key tax break for Delta because the airline nixed a discount from NRA members.